England is still stinking out the Euros. Scotland aren't even in the Euros anymore. But the town now know that we will start our Sky Bet Championship campaign at home to Burnley. As fixtures came out this morning, we're going to have a look at the fixtures and discuss a couple of talking points since the last time we recorded a podcast. And to help me do that, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe, Trust Chairman Tony Murray, and Town fan Dan Barratt-Davis. The whole gang are out, as is the sunshine. Gents, the countdown is on.
Can't wait.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's only 6 weeks to go. Bring it on.
We'll go through the fixtures and, as I say, a couple of talking points straight after this intro.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul. We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello, everyone. Welcome along to a bonus episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, you will know that we are not in our studio for this episode. We're currently in the process of redesigning things, so we are doing this video on Zoom, which is why you see many of us in our lounges or other rooms in the house. As I said before the intro, we're going to look at the Sky Bet Championship fixtures. We'll discuss Rob Edwards' new contract, which is the best news that we've had all summer. And we'll discuss the departure of Alan McCormack. First of all, then, gents, Burnley at home. Familiar foes, Jimbo. Obviously, we've come up against them in the last 2 seasons. Actually, we played Burnley the first away game of the last Sky Bet Championship campaign. This time it's the first home game. Hopefully, it all ends up in the same result of Luton getting promoted.
Yeah, let's hope so. It's probably one of the toughest tests to start with, isn't it? Which is not something you usually get. But my frustration with it, to be honest, has been the fact that it's been put on a Monday. It's like you get all the excitement of the first day of the season, usually supposed to be a Saturday, one of the best drinking days of the year, and then they go and put it on Monday night. So yeah, if we can get a result, that'd be good. But yeah, I'm not feeling this new TV deal so far.
Not even 60 seconds into a bonus podcast, and he's already moaning. Tony, lighten the mood a little bit. Burnley at home, yes, it is the most difficult fixture that we could have had in terms of the fact that they were one behind us in the Premier League last season, but it's a different Burnley side, isn't it? Vincent Kompany has somehow wangled his way in at Bayern Munich. It's a cracking start to the season, regardless of what day of the week it is.
It is. With the games at the moment, it's very difficult to call, because there's been little to no movement in the transfer window. So we don't know what we're going to come up against, and we don't even know really what sort of a team we're going to be putting out. It's a little bit frustrating that we've got to wait a couple of days longer than everybody else to start our campaign. But
see, really, Tony's on the moan chain with me. Come on, Tony.
We owe Burnley one. When was the last time we beat them at home? I think the last 2 or 3 times we played them at home, we've lost. So we definitely owe them one, and I am looking forward to it. And I'm more looking forward to seeing what sort of a team we put out.
Yeah, that will all be revealed in the coming weeks. I suspect everyone's waiting until the 1st of July before they start announcing any transfers. So we should only be a few days away from that happening. Obviously, 1st of July. Being on Monday. Dan, what do you make of that first fixture? Burnley at home, obviously would have liked an easier start, but I suppose if you're going to get the better teams, you're better to get them when they're potentially rusty.
Yeah, I'd always prefer to play the tougher teams first, especially at home as well. You want to get off to a good start, don't you? And home advantage has always been in our favour, really, hasn't it? So I'm excited for it, but same as Tony and James, I'm not really enthusiastic about it being on a Monday and having to wait a bit longer than everybody else. I think if it's going to be the first game, it ought to be a Friday. If they're going to make it a night game, make it a Friday, the day before the rest of it starts. I don't understand this Monday night business. But it is what it is. And, we know what the schedule is now. So I can't wait for Sky to go and change them all to different kick-off times and have everybody else having to rearrange their lives for the armchair supporters. Looking forward to that. So...
Hat trick of moans. Come on.
We we do. They say good things come to those who wait, don't they? So we can wait an extra. I think someone worked it out 53 hours from it, but actually the season starts on the Friday night, so it's a little bit longer than that. Has to be said though, Jimbo, once you get that Burnley game out of the way, this is a very, very favourable set of fixtures to start the season, because until you go to the 5th of October when we go to Sheffield United, we only play one team that finished in the top half of the Championship table last season up until that point, and that's Preston North End, who were fading very, very quickly by the time the season ends. I mean, we've got to get a tough one out of the way first of all, but once you're beyond that, you've got sort of 8 or 9 fixtures there where you can really build up a head of steam.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even with the Burnley one, if you can get a decent result there, it sort of sets you up. Everybody was talking about bouncing into the Championship with the same sort of style and momentum from the Premier League, and Edwards has said that recently since signing his contract, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But if they can do that, get a decent result against Burnley, then you'd fancy yourselves getting decent results against the others. Although Preston's always a hard match, as long as it's not in sweltering conditions like the last time. Although they came down to Kenilworth Road, that was a scorcher. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Obviously some fairly spicy ones in that first month. Queen's Park Rangers at home, obviously, and Millwall in September. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it was 40 degrees, wasn't it, when Preston came here the last time? I think a hot day in Preston's 4 degrees, so it might be slightly different by the time we go to deep there. Tony, of course, James has just mentioned 2 fixtures there that stand out in that early part of the season. I mentioned Sheffield United in early October, but let's be realistic, there's only one fixture in October that matters, and that comes along, well, in a minute, it comes along on the 19th of October. We can realistically say that will be on the 20th of October, you would have thought. That is that lot down the road at home.
You know, I was hoping at the end of last season that we might be able to play Hertfordshire's top team, but Stevenage didn't get promoted, so we'll have to make do with that lot down the road, won't we? So, yeah, it's a good chance to cross swords with them again, and it'll be quite an interesting clash because they're on the decline, aren't they? They run out of parachute money, so it's going to be quite interesting. And this time it's the other way round. We play at home quite early and play the away fixture in February. So hopefully we can get off to a flyer against them, and hopefully we'll have the same atmosphere at home that we did last time we played them.
Yeah, indeed. So hard to know who's going to be manager of them that deep into the season, isn't it? But Tom Cleverley's got no chance. 2 months in, more than enough for him to have been replaced. Dan, what do you kind of make of? I mean, that October month, that is the first sort of real month that you look at these features. You're like, they start to toughen out here. Forget the fact that that we're playing Watford. It's a derby. It's a different thing. But Sheffield United before that, Sunderland at home after that, and Coventry, who are highly likely to be right up there as well. It's a month that, if not pivotal to the season because of how early it is, certainly a month that if we can come through that with some decent form, teams will be standing up and taking notice of us.
I think so, yeah. It's important to go into those run of games positively as well. If we can get good results from the opening couple of months, that'll stand us in good stead for what will be a difficult month. I mean, Oxford won't be a pushover. Sheffield United, we know about them. Watford, just looking at their squad, they've had more managers in the last 3 years than they've got players at the moment. So there's a big building job on for them. And whether Cleverley will get the time to A, build a new squad, and B, still be there come October the 19th or 20th or whenever it's going to be, the odds are against him. But yeah. And then Sunderland, they always think they're thereabouts. I think they've got a lot of problems off the field again, though. Hopefully, it's not another Netflix documentary because I've run out of tissues for that one. And then Coventry, like you say, Coventry.
They weren't that entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. Well, blimey.
Crying tears of joy. And then my old foes, Coventry City, which I hate the fixture. I hate everything about it because I live here, obviously, and but yeah, they had a good season last year. They didn't finish in the playoffs like they wanted to be after losing to us. But they had a very impressive cup run, and they'll be looking to build on that. I think the noise around here is generally they need a second 11. I think if they're going to be up there again, there's no doubt in their quality, the first 11, but they've always lacked having a backup, which is what I think carried us through beforehand. And I dare say we're a lot stronger now than we were 12 months ago. So, and I think the experience we've got from last season as well, the way we grew into the season progressively, despite having every man and his dog injured, I think we're coming into the start of this season very strong. And like you say, October is going to be the month where, you know, I think when it comes to 2nd November, when we play West Brom, I think we'll sort of know whereabouts we'll be come the end of the season. But I think if we can get through that month, gives us a very, very strong position. Definitely.
Really does, yep. November doesn't get much easier though, Jimbo, not least because there's loads of games in a short space of time because of the international break that I'm sure everyone's going to be looking forward to. I haven't watched England so far in the Euros. But there is a number of home games in there which helps. West Brom at home, Cardiff at home, Hull at home. So 3 sort of home games in the month, 3 away games as well, with a pick of which probably Leeds United. Thankfully, we've got until the 26th of November to flog a kidney to be able to afford to go to Elland Road. But it's always one of English football's sort of spectacular grounds. And in this division, probably the best we'll go to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're the bookies' favourites to go up. Well, they were when I looked last week. But I think Luton versus Leeds now in this context, if Luton can hit their straps early on and get through those couple of months with some really impressive results, then I think there's going to be more level pegging between Luton and Leeds than there ever has been for quite a number of years, I'd imagine. So, I'd be really looking forward to that one. Not the fact that it's on a Tuesday, though. I mean, the people who have compiled these fixtures have really stunk up the gaff with a couple of midweek long journeys to Wales and Leeds is one of the first ones there, isn't it? Well, I mean, the Cardiff have got to come down on a Wednesday as well before we have to go up there midweek as well. I mean, that's ridiculous. It sucks, that stuff.
Ditto Sunderland as well. Both Wednesday night games.
Absolutely. That's even before you come to Christmas. I mean, you'd definitely be driving home for Christmas after those games because you'd be on the road forever. But I'm looking forward to the games against those big clubs, the Leeds United. Obviously, they came so close this season, whatever we are currently now in this limbo period, when they got to the Championship playoff final, but then bottled it. And then, who knows what that means for them this time around. But if you've got aspirations to win this league, then you've got to beat those sorts of teams. In a similar fashion to in the Premier League, it didn't actually pan out like that. We had to beat the teams around us to sort of stand a chance of staying up. Well, in this league, you've got to beat those teams, so it's going to be really interesting. And if I might just time travel back to October for a slight little chuckle, I did like the fact that when Watford put out their little poster about their fans buying shares in their club, that it says at the top, "Don't expect to get the money back." Love that.
Don't expect to get the money back, any enjoyment or anything else for that matter. Let's move it forward. Again, Tony, before we all hitch a lift back from Bristol and Swansea with Chris Rea, we have the game before Christmas, the return of Sonny Bradley and Derby County. That'll be a sort of an emotional day because we never really got to say a proper goodbye to Sonny, and he was such a linchpin in the 2 promotion winning sides. He'll get a really good reception. Obviously, James Collins comes back as well with Derby. So it'll be good to welcome a couple of players who have been massive in our recent past.
Yeah, they were huge players for us. And particularly following the Championship season where we managed to stay up. Massive impact when we won League One. So it will be a bit of an emotional return. It'll be good to see them and perhaps give them a good reception, but hopefully they won't do any damage against us when they come to Kenilworth Road. But I'm looking forward to it. You've also got the Bristol City thing with Harry Cornick and maybe Naismith if he's fit as well. So You know, the main thing about that is with the games. I mean, I don't know what they do with the fixtures, but Bristol City away in Boxing Day is just crazy. You know, when we've got two clubs up the road, you know, you've got that lot down the road, and you've got Oxford up the road, or even Coventry or somewhere like that, would have been a more suitable game for Boxing Day. Excuse me. You know, and could guarantee full houses for all those clubs. But a trip to Bristol on Boxing Day is just crazy.
Yeah, I seem to have recalled going there in the game before Christmas a couple of times. And I think we went there under Graham Jones in the game after Boxing Day, didn't we? Which was an absolute nightmare of a game where we had James Bree playing here, there, and everywhere. And not a particularly memorable experience around the Christmas time down at Bristol. And it's not likely to be much more memorable when we have to go all the way to Wales on a Sunday after that. We start off 2025, Dan, with a home game against Norwich. That'll bring back memories from the last time Norwich were here when Paulie Woodrow scored that incredible winner in injury time. Players that have left recently have mentioned in the interviews that they've done how important that was for momentum, that goal that season. Tom Lockyer has posted on Instagram the exact same thing. We'll happily take the same result, hopefully with 11 men on the pitch this time rather than 10. But who cares if we win that game?
Yeah, exactly. It'd be nice to kick off 2025 with 3 points as well, having gone through what I'd anticipate to be quite a tough Christmas schedule. I mean, we're only playing 3 games in a week, as opposed to Pep Guardiola having to play 3 games in a week, including flying out to Europe and whatnot. But poor old Pepe. But yeah, no, back to Luton. Norwich is as tough as they get. With a little eye on QPR away, which is the following Saturday as well. There's only a 3-day gap between that one as well. But yeah, it'll be good. I think Jack Stacey still plays for them. Am I right? Norwich.
You are.
Yeah, I think
For them last year. So there's another ex-Hatter to look forward to seeing back at the Kenny. Hopefully, he won't enjoy it too much, and I'm sure our fans will make sure he doesn't. But yeah. No, it'll be good to play them again. And in fact, I'd probably prefer to play them Boxing Day. Or as Tony mentioned, for me, Coventry, because then I can just nip out over the road rather than getting in my car. But there's some good fixtures coming up in there. International, it's FA Cup, isn't it, in January after QPR, and then Preston, Oxford, and Millwall. So yeah, be interesting, and that's when you get to sort of the nitty gritty. It's like the middle third of the season where, you know, anyone could beat anyone. There's all sorts going on. January window opens. There'll no doubt be some injuries in there as well. And you've got that month to sort of tie up any last minute deals you need to do to cover you through to the end of the season. So things could be a bit all over the place there, but I anticipate a decent month for us. And if we can get through that with some positive results, it should keep the momentum going, I'd have thought.
Yeah, good thing about January in this league is we play every week. None of that winter break cobblers that we had to endure last season. We can go from start to finish. And as you mentioned, the FA Cup is the second Saturday in that month. Jimbo, February jumped off the page. It did. It just jumped off the page. Obviously, we go down the road in the third Saturday of February, but we also host Sheffield United. Right now, that seems like that's going to be a big game. We have that stupid long journey on a Wednesday night to Sunderland, which feels like that'll be a key game. And even Sheffield Wednesday away to start that the month of February might not be particularly easy with the way they finished last season, and their manager spoke a good game in the Euro coverage, didn't he? So big month of football in February. Some of those games might, of course, move depending on how far we go in the FA Cup.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that one against Sheffield United, after you just have to travel up to Sunderland midweek, is going to be pretty tough unless they move that around. I suppose in defence of the Sky deal, even though I'm not in favour of the Monday start, they have promised to give, before the season starts, 5 months' notice of when all the games will be televised. So that's a bit better than the 5 weeks beforehand. So kudos on that. So one of those games might be moved around. I'd anticipate it might be Sheffield United if both clubs have decent first halves to the season and fighting at the right end of the table. We'll see on the Sheffield United front. I'm not entirely sure whether they'll be in the same position, but you never know with them. Chris Wilder does know the Football League after all, even if he doesn't know the Premier League very much. But then a nice little, a nice week break before that trip down the road will be welcome. And yeah, it'll be good to go down there and actually turn the tables on the last time.
He didn't know the Football League particularly well the last time he was here in the Football League, Chris Wilder, it has to be said. So hopefully that will be the same outcome this time around. Yeah, you mentioned that thing about the TV coverage, James. We're going to find out up until the end of September all of the fixtures on television by the end of next week. Week commencing the 1st of July, that is, and we'll know the TV games for every game up until the third round of the FA Cup by the time a ball is kicked this season. So yeah, that's very much positive. That gives us at least a little bit of latitude to do some planning in advance, because just judging by the look of that opening round of matches, there are going to be shitloads of games that get moved this year. If you were of the opinion that we're done with Sky TV because we've got relegated out of the Premier League, they're going to double down by the looks of it. And yeah, obviously, if we're at the top of the league, we're going to get shown an awful lot more. Let's move into March. Tony, there's a couple of kind of standout fixtures in March. Obviously, we go to Burnley, two of the title favourites at the moment. That feels like that could be a big game. And Middlesbrough at home. Obviously, their wheels well and truly came off last time they were down here. And but they're still a good side under Michael Carrick. They'll still take a little bit of beating. That's the game before that March international break, and then straight after it, Hull City away, who've made that bizarre decision to sack Liam Rosenior, but they were on the fringes of the playoffs last season, so they should be there or thereabouts as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at some tough games there, because there's some clubs that have done a fair bit of progression since we were last in this league and played them. And of course, you've got two clubs there that potentially Ryan Giles could be playing for, Middlesbrough and Sheffield United, not Sheffield United, Hull City. And that looks like a tough month, but we should be well in a good position then. Of course, obviously, it depends upon things like, if we can keep some of our centre backs injury free this season, it'd be nice. But these are games that we've got to win, particularly the home games. And I think that's one of the things that let us down last season was our home form. So this season we've now got to get back to making the Kenny a fortress, so we can beat teams like Middlesbrough when they come to our place, because they're going to be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, indeed. I would imagine that the home form, there'll be an awful lot of emphasis on that over the coming weeks, that's for sure. Dan, we go into April, Leeds at home. That will be a feisty fixture, that's just obvious. And then we'll find out the answer to the age-old question, can we do it on a Tuesday night in Stoke?
Well, this is it. You don't know how good you are until you can do it on a Tuesday night in Stoke. And the last time we played a Tuesday night in Stoke, we stunk the gaff out because Nathan was off again. Or was that a Wednesday? I can't remember. I just remember it was a horrible night.
It was a Tuesday, yeah.
It stunk all week.
Tuesday,
mate.
It was a horrible night. It was cold. It was horrible, and I can't believe I've just reminded myself and everybody else about it. And let's move on from that. But no, yeah, like I say, tough fixtures. We started with Leeds. They're always going to bring it. Even when Leeds are particularly poor by their own standards, they're still one of the better sides in the Championship, and we're quite, I'd say, unlucky last year not to go up. So they'll be looking to, I think that'll be one of the fixtures they'll be looking at trying to win as well, as same as us, which makes for a good game. Stoke were crap towards the end of last season, just holding on. Blackburn don't seem to be doing anything other than bringing up really good players and flogging them. So I'm not really worried about them at the moment. Derby away could be a sticky one. Don't really know too much about them other than they've got Sonny Bradley and James Collins and been in League One forever, so don't really know too much about them. I'm sure we'll know a bit more by then. And then you got Bristol City and then Coventry again. And this is the point where we really are at the business end as well. I mean, those 6 games will will determine whether we're going to be in the mix or not. I say it depends what everyone's expectations are. I think the expectation is that we challenge to go for promotion again automatically. I'd have thought. I'm going to go on the cushion there and say playoffs just to be safe, but which I don't want, obviously. But get through those 6 games, and who knows, we could be celebrating come the end of the season, and then West Brom away is a dead rubber. That's the hope, anyway, isn't it? Those are the really tough games. Like I say, it's hard to know what sort of teams we're going to be facing at this stage because nobody's really done any business, and I think people are, still trying to do things, and with the financial fair play as well, I think we're trying to make sure everybody's keeping in house and not breaching any rules. So there might be very little movement this year, which, as things stand, it looks favourable to us.
Does indeed, yep. So that's the end of the fixtures. West Brom away being hopefully the last away game, the last game full stop in the Championship before we leave the division and head off back to the Premier League. Yeah, Easter a lot kinder than Christmas. Derby away, Bristol City at home. Much friendlier on the planet, but also on all of us, really. But Friday, Monday, Easter fixtures in the Championship, as always, not just a Saturday like we get in the Premier League. Before we go, gents, some massive news came out a couple of weeks ago. We knew that Rob Edwards had been offered a new contract. That was kind of publicised. They wouldn't have publicised it, Jimbo, if they didn't think he was going to sign it, and he has signed it. He is here to stay for 4 more years, which just so happens to be roughly the timescale that we're going to be into Power Court in. So we now know the man who will lead Luton Town into Power Court, and it's a manager that we hope is here for an awful lot longer than just those 4 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wonderful news. I mean, I never really had it in any doubt in my mind, but I know once the season finishes and there's a bit of limbo, they don't call it silly season for nothing, that there was lots of suggestions, fairly spurious ones in my view, that he might go here or there with the Ipswich saga and McKenna, but I couldn't see it. You guys see it from the stands, and I mean, you'll see it on the televised interviews he does and stuff, that what he says he means, and he loves the club. And I think there's definitely unfinished business. There were circumstances that meant Luton got relegated. I mean, the injuries were a massive one, I think, last season, and he'll feel that he'll want to get back up there, and that's where Luton maybe can start to belong. But first of all, you've got to get through this very, very difficult league in itself. But he's done it once before, and they can do it again. And with some decent recruitment, it could be a very promising season. That's the one thing we've got to see now, the recruitment side of it, because obviously we know we're probably going to be losing Ross Barkley with that news of him going to Aston Villa, soon to be confirmed, I would imagine, on the 1st of July. There's the question around Gabe Osho, which we discussed in the last podcast, you and I, about whether he signs another contract or whether he goes with Sheffield United hovering. So we'll wait to see on all that stuff. But the main signing was to keep Rob Edwards here, and not just for the next 6 months or anything, but well into the future. I think if he could be the man that leads Luton out on Power Court on that first day, it will be fitting, really. And we just hope that the intervening years are success laden.
Yeah, indeed, Tony. We can't underestimate the importance of this contract being signed this early in pre-season, because there is now no willy won't he. There is now no insecurity or anything. Any players that might have been in 2 minds about whether they leave or whether they don't leave, they now know that they've got the manager that's been so good to them for the last 18 months in tow for the next 4 years. Any players that we're trying to entice will now know that we've got a coach of Edwards' stature for the next 4 years. It's massive to get that deal done. I mean, Rob said himself he was always signing that deal, but to get it done and announced so early, now the clarity is there for everyone involved.
Yeah, I mean, there's one word, Kev: continuity. And that's important for us going forward if we want to build the club. But Rob Edwards and Luton Town have always been a good fit, and I think it's fantastic news for all the reasons you said about players coming, players staying. Excuse me. But it gave us all a lift because there's a lot of speculation going on about, our players and other clubs, the vultures circling. But with having the same manager, they're more likely to stay, as you've said. The one thing is it doesn't mean that he won't leave at some stage, but it just means now whoever want to entice him away have got to pay a lot more money for him, which is good for us. But I want him to stay there. I, as you've already said, I want him to be the manager that leads us out of Power Court. So it's brilliant news, and hopefully, we can build on that, and we're all celebrating at the end of the season.
Indeed. So, yep. Dan, just before we go, one man who won't be leading us out in Power Court is Alan McCormack. He has left to join up with the Leyton Orient. Huge presence for us as a player. Very important for us as a coach as well. He was the set-piece coach last season, and we saw how successful we were on those. He goes with our best wishes.
He doesn't owe us anything. He gave us 2 great years as a player. Obviously, when he was fit, come towards the end of his career, he added that great experience, and that's been invaluable, I think, in developing the younger players that he worked with before he joined the first team set up last season. And we're going to have to find someone else to teach the players how to take free kicks and corners. But no, he goes with our best wishes because, like I say, brilliant model professional. I've spoken to him a couple of times. He comes across really well. And he was very thorough in, because I asked him about what his job entails and stuff. He was really thorough about that and went into great detail. It was really, really interesting to get the insight there from him. So Leyton Orient have got themselves a brilliant coach there. I wish them all the best.
It'll be interesting to see who Rob does use for that role. That'll be something else that will come along in the weeks and months to come. Of course, Adrian Thorpe's got to be replaced in the academy as well after he left for America. But that's all to come. But that's pretty much it for this episode, this bonus episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. The fixtures are now out. We now know exactly who we're playing. Don't quite know yet exactly when, but we know roughly when we're going to be playing all of these sides. And the countdown is on. It is we're recording this on fixture release day. That means it is just 47 days until Luton kick off their Sky Bet Championship campaign at home to Burnley. From myself, James, Tony, and Dan, thanks very much for watching, listening, however it is that you consume this podcast. We will be back in a studio of some sort shortly ahead of the new season, where we'll do season previews. We'll discuss all of the ins and outs and stuff that have happened in the early part of July. But until then, from all of us, come on, you actors.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul. We're Luton people, and that's what